It's been almost 3 years since Nintendo released the Nintendo Switch, and it still looks like this. So let's talk about that for a minute. Before I continue though, this video is sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends. That's right, baby, we made it to the big leagues, we got a sponsor. Now, I'm sure you've heard of Raid from other YouTubers, but in case you haven't, let me introduce you to one of the most immersive RPG mobile games to date. Raid isn't like other mobile games. It actually has a pretty good storyline, voice acting, giant boss battles, tons of champions, and honestly, it doesn't look half bad either. I mean, look at my War Priest. She's probably one of my favorites right now just because her attacks are actually really good for being at such a low level. Then there's Gallic. He's the one who I originally started the game with. I mean, how could I not pick him? Look at him, he's awesome. Anyway, I actually have been playing this game outside of just the sponsorship, and I gotta say, it did kind of impress me, so if you like collecting characters, fighting in PvP or PvE environments, or just want a new mobile game to check out, try Raid Shadow Legends. And if you use the link in my description when signing up, you'll get 50,000 silver and a free epic champion as part of the new players program to start your journey. So, what are you waiting for? Join today with the links below. When the Nintendo Switch launched back in 2017, I, like many others, noticed how bare bones it seemed. However, it wasn't my first console launch. I understand that usually when a console launches, the experience you have isn't going to be everything that the developers had in mind. In the post-internet and digital download era, we have firmware updates, game patching, and everything else needed to improve upon a system on a software level after it launches. So when I got the Switch, turned it on, and it looked like this, I really wasn't too worried. But as we're approaching the 3-year mark on the console, well, I think it's time for some concern. Let's first start with the UI. Now personally, I don't really mind the simplistic nature of the Switch UI. It's fast, I can easily tell where something is just at a glance, and even though it's basically the definition of function over form, it works really well. However, it does lack a few creature comforts that I would like to see implemented in the future. The first being organization of games. As of right now, the Switch lists all your games in order that they were last played, which I guess is okay, but I do miss the ability to place my games in a specific folder or organize them into groups and clusters by franchise or genre. I actually did this on both my Wii with the Virtual Console and on the Wii U with anything I downloaded digitally, so while I understand this feature might not be a big deal to a lot of people, I guess I'm kind of the weird guy who likes to keep things neat and organized, and unfortunately there really isn't a way to do that on the Switch right now. Secondly, and this will probably appeal to more people, themes. When the Switch first launched in March of 2017, it came with a themes menu, right in the settings, and it came with 2 themes, Blind Your Retinas White and a basic dark mode. At launch, that was fine because the system just came out, but it's been years and we've still yet to see any new themes for the system. Now I understand it took Nintendo about 3 years to release themes for the 3DS, so maybe there's still hope for the Switch, but I still don't think it should have taken them this long. I've always enjoyed theming my systems to a particular game series or buying a theme just because it had a particular piece of art that I liked. And seeing as the Switch has a very minimalistic design already, themes could go a long way to spice things up. We also know it's entirely possible since the homebrew community on the Nintendo Switch has had custom themes for a long time now. Some of them go as far as to completely change how the UI looks, and honestly, they're not half bad. Speaking of UI changes though, for the love of Reggie, fix the eShop. I can't be the only one who's noticed that the Switch eShop is probably one of the worst implementations of the online marketplace on all of the consoles that it's been on. The UI is laggy, it's not as intuitive or easy to find things as on previous consoles, and it would be much better if it functioned more like a system application rather than a web page because, well, yeah, that's what it is, just a web page. Now, I assume Nintendo did it this way because it's easier for them to maintain and it keeps with the minimalistic design of the system, but I really dislike how it functions. The 3DS, Wii U, and even the Wii all had far better interfaces for downloading content from Nintendo. The Switch could use a little bit of love in that area in my opinion. Which leads me to my next 2 improvements that I'd like to see. Nintendo Switch Online and their classic game offerings. Let's start with NSO. Starting this year, Nintendo's previously free online service changed to a paid model. $20 a year to play all games online, and you get access to a library of NES games with 2 or 3 getting added every single month. Now I do understand that $20 a year isn't that much and it's way cheaper than both PlayStation and Xbox, which is a good thing, but considering that it hasn't really improved since the paid model was implemented, that's kind of a problem. Nintendo has struggled with online games since the Wii era, but they've had 2 generations now to figure it out, and I was fine with paying a little extra if it meant that the online system would be improved and smoothed out, but that never really happened. Now, I do understand that sometimes it's not Nintendo's fault. Someone might just have a piss poor internet connection, and that's kind of on them. But when a good 80% of the matches you play online are lagging, it's kind of a problem, so I'm sure there's some room for improvement in Nintendo's netcode for games, or however they handle online could be made more efficient. As it is now, Splatoon, Mario Kart, and especially Smash Bros. Can suffer from really bad lag issues that can ruin your online experience with those games. And if the online isn't worth playing in the first place, why bother paying for it? That's not even mentioning the crazy phone app you need for voice chat, friend groups, and other ridiculous quirks the online system has that should just be included on the console itself, but that's an entirely different topic that I don't want to cover in this video. The second part of NSO is of course the NES and now SNES games. I'm actually not opposed to Nintendo releasing older games like this as sort of a subscription model. The longer you keep NSO, the more games you get. That's pretty cool in my opinion. Plus, some of them even have online features now, which really makes them have extra replay value. However, I would like to see them add more consoles to the mix. Imagine playing Mario Kart 64 Battle Mode online, or any of the other older N64 Mario Party titles. Heck, even Smash 64, it would be awesome. As the system is now though, I fear that's not going to happen anytime soon. Nintendo did this with the Wii U Virtual Console as well. They took forever to release games, and most of them happen to be the same ones that were already on the Wii Virtual Console. Now, I'm sure making emulators for each console takes some time, but really, once they have them working, Nintendo should be putting out games as fast as they can. At this rate, the Switch would be lucky to get like 30 SNES games by the end of next year. It's fine if Nintendo doesn't want a virtual console on the Switch, but these retro games are something that people want to play, and I think Nintendo should be working just a little bit harder at getting them onto the Switch as soon as possible. Also, as an extra bonus, if there was a way to purchase them so that after your NSO subscription runs out you can continue to play them, that would be even better, but I digress. Lastly, I think the Switch needs, well, more games. And what I mean by that is more original Nintendo titles. I know games like Fire Emblem and Astral Chain just came out recently. For the most part, the Switch has had a relatively decent release schedule this year if you include all the third-party games, even if not all those games are something I personally liked. But I think Nintendo themselves are dropping the ball just a little bit here. A lot of Nintendo's presence on the Switch is made up of ports from the Wii U era. Now, I want to make it clear, ports alone aren't a bad thing, but call it a hunch, I do feel like some of these ports are releasing in place of what would otherwise be a new title from Nintendo. For as much flack as the Wii U got, I have to admit Nintendo did release quite a few exclusives to that system that were worth playing. Now, don't get me wrong, the Switch has had a few standout titles like Super Mario Odyssey, Smash Ultimate, and Breath of the Wild, even though that was also on the Wii U, but a lot of what they've been putting out for the Switch is just ports of Wii U games. Like, for example, we got Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, port. New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe, port. Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, port. Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition, port. Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive, oh, you know what, that's a good one. You go on the special shelf of well-deserved ports, never mind. But then we got Captain Toad, port, and Bayonetta, and the list goes on and on, man. Now, this is great for people who missed out on the Wii U era of games, but the abundance of ports and lack of new original titles means that there are fewer newer experiences on the Switch for those of us who did survive the Wii U era. And honestly, I've had months where I didn't play anything on my Switch just because the big release for that month was something I already played and being on the Wii U and didn't really feel compelled to buy it again for the Switch. I do understand they sometimes add like extra features and DLC, but sometimes that isn't enough. What makes this so odd to me is that I feel like with the Wii and even the Wii U, the frequency in which Nintendo was releasing new titles was significantly higher, so I'm not exactly sure what's going on with the Switch. I feel like I always had something to look forward to on both the Wii and the Wii U. Now, I will give credit where credit is due though. What Nintendo has released for the Switch is already fantastic. Like, Mario Odyssey and Breath of the Wild and Smash Ultimate are some of my favorite games that Nintendo has ever produced. And I think that's because they've raised the bar for themselves with those titles, and honestly, I just want more of that. Like, I'm dying to see what they're gonna put out next, but all we're getting is games from last generation. And although good, they pale in comparison to what Nintendo is putting out now. Now, I want to make something very clear. I love the Nintendo Switch. The concept alone sold me on the console. I also love Nintendo. They're a legendary developer and have made some of my favorite games. So don't think of this video as me hating on Nintendo or the Switch, because that couldn't be farther from the truth. These are just some things that, as a longtime fan of Nintendo, I think they could be putting more effort into. My goal with this video isn't to bash or complain about Nintendo and the Switch, but instead to encourage critical analysis and open discussion about these things, because the way I see it, if no one's willing to talk about it and present ideas or express concerns, things are just going to stay the same and they won't get fixed. I'm not expecting anyone from Nintendo to ever see this video, but if it opens up a bigger dialogue somewhere on the internet and maybe enough people say something, Nintendo might eventually work on some of these features and put them into the system. And that would benefit everyone, so that's my best case scenario with this. And for anyone out there, now's your chance to express some things you'd like to see the Switch have in the future. These are just some things that were on my mind, but I'm sure there's a ton of things I'm overlooking or just haven't thought of yet, so put your thoughts in the comments down below and share your ideas. I know I'd love to see them. Anyways, I think that's where I'm going to end off this video. So once again, guys, my name is Matt. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.